having a conversation with a three-time Super Bowl champion. He holds the record for most receptions and most points scored in a Super Bowl. He was a two-time All-Big Ten selection. He was a Big Ten Freshman of the Year. He was the 130th pick overall in 2014 out of Wisconsin, and he did announce his retirement last week. Of course, I'm speaking of James White. James, good to have you on. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Really well. Really well. So you made the announcement last week, and then on Tuesday night, you and the team had a final presser. I'm curious, what kind of emotions were running through you on Tuesday night?
I have a lot of different emotions going on, but it was, great having my family there with me, my teammates, coaches, some of the other people that work in the facility that I've gotten a chance to get to know over the course of my career. But it's definitely a different feeling knowing that, I'm not going to be back on the football field, but it's just a pleasure having all those people there to support me that have been supporting me this whole entire time.
James White's joining us. I would imagine as emotional as Tuesday night was, Bill Belichick was quick to remind everybody that when he saw you at the Combine, quote, he wasn't big, wasn't fast, couldn't jump high, end of quote. I mean, knowing that, and you're kind of chuckling, but knowing that, how do you explain the career that you had and the impact that you had on this organization?
Well, for me, I've never been a big test guy. Like, my numbers never ever really jumped out at anybody. But for me, I've always been a consistent football player, and that's when I pride myself on being on. And as a guy who's going to show up each and every day with the right attitude, going to be smart, going to take coaching, and I'm going to do things right over and over and over and over again. And let's see if somebody can do that more times than me. That's kind of what I've been all about, and, helping my team win football games. So I know a lot of guys, have the measurables and all that. That wasn't, my necessarily cup of tea, but I just went out there and played football and tried to play at a high level.
James White joining us, to that very point that you just made. Like, if we were to go back to your first season, you didn't play very much. You appeared in 3 games. You had 5 receptions and 9 carries. You said after that year, quote, I had to look myself in the mirror and find ways to get better, end of quote. So how were you able to take such a big step from year 1 to year 2?
For me, it was trying to get the nutrition right, talk to the coaches, figure out what they needed more from me, what they needed to see from me in order for me to get out there on the football field, whether it was running the ball better, running better routes, picking up the blitz. And what they told me was like a little bit of everything. So I worked on everything and went out there at, next OTAs, training camp. We had like 8 running backs like going into OTAs that year. So, I honestly was thinking I probably was going to get cut, after the year I had the previous year. But I just pushed myself and, just tried to make the decision on the coaches as hard as possible. I ended up making the team. I was still not playing for the first few weeks, until my friend Deion Lewis ended up, unfortunately, getting hurt. And then I finally got my opportunity. And I just, tried not to look back from there.
James White joining us, and you get the opportunity. I mean, dude, you go from looking in the mirror and trying to find ways to get better and hopefully not getting cut to one of the all-time great Super Bowl performances in that comeback win over Atlanta. I mean, there's so many moments from that game, including the winning TD. But when you think back on the Super Bowl, what do you remember most? What kind of emotions do you take away from that?
Man, I know I was extremely exhausted, first and foremost, but for me, like I said, my rookie year I didn't play, and seeing those guys, win a Super Bowl my rookie year and having to stand there and watch, that was hard for me as a competitor. Obviously, I was really excited to be there, and I know those guys worked so hard to get to that point. But as a competitor, you just want to be out there. So I always said to myself, if I ever got the opportunity to play in that game as a player, I was going to do whatever I could. Not try and do anything outside of myself, but do whatever I could to help my team win that football game. And we were trailing by a lot of points, and, I'm in my role with the Patriots, I'm in the game a lot when we're throwing the ball a lot. So the ball kept coming my way, and I was just in one of those zones where everything just happened to be going right. And I said it wasn't just myself that won that football game, but I was just happy I could just be a big part to help my team win.
And when you talk about being in the zone, I'm always fascinated by that, whether you call it a flow process or being in the zone. Can you put yourself in that zone, or do you end up in that zone as a result of the way the game is going?
I think you end up in that zone as a result of the way the game's going. You start getting in the flow of the game, and you start getting a feel for things, and it's kind of ends up like practice. Like, you don't even realize the fans are there. You don't realize anybody's there, but you your teammates, and the opponents, and you're just out there playing football. And like I said, it just feels like whatever you do, it's almost working. It's kind of an indescribable feeling, but I think a lot of guys who've had the opportunity to play sports, they kind of know what I'm talking about.
James, that's incredible what you just said. Is that really how that was? I mean, you're on the biggest stage in the entire world. The biggest stage in the entire world. When you get in that zone, does it feel like there aren't fans, that that's not the stage, that it's just you playing ball?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, when in the beginning of the game, when we were losing, I could hear everything. Like it felt like I was at an Atlanta club that first half, the way, they're beating up on us. But when we got locked in and I got dialed in, like it almost seemed like it was silent, and I'm just literally just out there doing what I have to do. Even when I scored a touchdown, it was almost like I didn't really hear anything. It's just kind of like I blacked out and was in a zone. It was just a crazy feeling.
James White joining us. Every great athlete wants to be able to leave the game on their own terms, right? And so few get to, because the game is so unforgiving. I'm curious, last fall you suffered a season-ending hip injury, and you were rehabbing that. And my question is, could you have come back out and played this year? How did you approach that in terms of deciding, you know what, now is the time?
For me, when I first got injured, I've obviously never been through this series of an injury. Throughout my entire career, I was blessed and fortunate to be healthy, throughout, high school, college, and into the pros until this past season. But when I first got hurt, you couldn't tell me I would have even tried to, go back out there and play. But as the rehab process went on, I got more and more confident. I was able to work with, a lot of great, trainers. And shout out to my guy, David Reevy, who's in Illinois. He did a lot of great work on me to give me the confidence to feel like I could go out there and play again. And I feel like I could have gone out there and played. I don't know if I would have been to the standard that I'm used to playing, and that was kind of the thing that kind of pushed me to go into retirement, because I didn't want to go out there and not be the same player. And, my teammates are expecting a guy that they're used to seeing. My coaches are expecting a guy that they're used to seeing, and I'm not that guy. It's been hard for myself to put myself through that, and it's been hard I'm sure, for them to see that as well. So, and also I just wanted to do what was best for my body. Like I said, after a long week of workouts, it was, getting hard for me to recover and feel back to normal after a long week of workouts. And I hadn't even, actually been out there on the practice field getting tackled, and that's a whole other element of things. So I just wanted to play it smart and, to try and make the best decision for myself and my family.
And then, of course, the standard is the standard. Before I let you go, you mentioned the coaches. It's clear how much respect and love Bill Belichick has for you. At one point on Tuesday, he said, quote, "It certainly has been an honor to coach you, James." I mean, that guy generally does not say things like that, not publicly. That was enormous to me. What was that like for you to hear that from him?
Means a lot. As arguably the greatest coach of all time, and like I said, I was extremely blessed to, start my career there and finish my career there. I learned so much about life, about the game of football. I mean, he's going to challenge you if you're, undrafted rookie, first round pick, all the way to, whatever, 19, 18-year vet, like when Tom was there. So it's just a pleasure to play for him. Like I said, try not to take any days for granted when I step into that building, because there's a high standard set, long before I got there, but it was the same standard that I, held myself to for a long time. I think I learned that standard from my parents about, hard work, discipline, doing your job, and, anything worth getting, you got to work hard for. So that's what it was all about.
So one last thought. I would imagine also when you talk about learning about life in football, I would imagine you learned a great deal about life in football at Wisconsin. I mentioned that. I say it because my son goes there. We have a home in the Northwoods in northern Wisconsin, so I'm really familiar with the Badgers. It still blows my mind that you, Monty Ball, and Melvin Gordon were all on the same team. How much did each of you feed off the other back then?
Oh, man, it was awesome. Wisconsin's a beautiful place, beautiful campus. I love that place. I don't get back there enough, but I love it there. To share the backfield with those guys, man, they were special talents. I mean, they had a lot more success in college than I ever had, for sure. Those guys breaking rushing records and all things of that nature. But to have those guys in the backfield and compete with them, you see them go out there and make a play. You want to make a play, and we push each other. We had a great running back coach in Thomas Hammock who made sure we competed at everything. And I think that was a big help to all of us. He pushed us to know the game and pushed us to compete and go out there and have great performances every week.
So one bonus question, the rings. Dude, the rings, plural, 3 rings. What do you do with the rings? Are they locked away in a safe box? Do you break them out on occasion? What are you going to do with the rings?
I mean, the only time I've ever broken them out is for our ring ceremonies. Other than that, locked away in a safe. I mean, they're pretty big, so try to keep those put away.
Yeah, dude, they are pretty big. I've seen them. I've never actually had one on my hand, but they are pretty big. He's got 3 of them. He holds the record for most receptions and most points scored in a Super Bowl. A great, great NFL career. He announced his retirement last week. James White, my guest. Dude, really good to get caught up, James. Thank you very, very much. Congrats on an amazing career, and I hope we can do it again soon and keep talking.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you very much. James White, what a pro. Such a pro. Good Wisconsin man, too.